I felt I was in a good place, almost like I didn't want to come back to life. Hi, I'm Anqi and I'm a freediver. Freediving is a breathhold sport. It can be practiced both in the pool and in the ocean. Or it can also be static apnea where you hold your breath, submerging your airways in the water, not moving at all, and you see how long you can hold your breath for. So the world record is like almost 12 minutes. For me, I started off with scuba diving, so my journey started already in the ocean. So that is something very close to me. I really enjoy the feeling of being in the ocean. I enjoy exploring. I enjoy having fishes around me as I dive. So actually the breathhold part is only a small part of freediving. And then you have the part where I love the most, which is freediving in the ocean, where you hold your breath and you try to dive as deep as possible, with or without fins. So the deepest dive I've done is 70 meters with bi-fins. Imagine you're on like a 22 or 23 story high building, and holding your breath, you walk all the way down, and using the same breath, you have to walk all the way back up. But of course in the ocean it feels completely different, and there are so many factors involved. Of course physically it is a really challenging sport because it's probably the only sport where you need to hold your breath. A big part of it is also the mental aspect. So sometimes as a sport it can be really conflicting. You know, you want to push, but at the same time you have to allow your body to surrender to the process. So for me, freediving is a form of meditation. So one of the most important rules of freediving is to never freedive alone, even in a pool, because there is a risk that you may suffer from blacking out. So blacking out happens when your body is so low on oxygen. This is a result of hypoxia, where you hold your breath for so long that the body is starved of oxygen. So as a safety mechanism, the body basically just shuts down. So you can black out even in a pool, because you are holding your breath for so long and you're really pushing yourself to the limit. And if you're alone in a pool blacking out and nobody is there with you, then that can result in a really serious accident or even death. So it's really important during freediving to never freedive alone. So that happened when I was training for the World Championships in Honduras, and I was doing a very challenging discipline called constant weight no fins, where I have to dive just using my arms and my legs, swimming all the way down to 51 meters and coming up on a single breath. So at that time, that was the deepest dive I've ever done in this discipline. I blacked out just below the surface. There were a group of safety divers that rescued me. During the time of the blackout, basically I don't remember what actually happened. It's just like, I'm not sure if you have blacked out on land before, maybe from alcohol or some strange accident, or I felt I was in a good place, almost like I didn't want to come back to life, right? And then suddenly I was brought back to life and I awoke back to reality. This journey of becoming first a scuba diving instructor and then finally going into freediving and then doing freediving competitions, it's not something that is very common here. So when I first quit my corporate job and I left Singapore, actually during the financial recession, my family and friends of course were worried about my financial situation and wondering if that was the right thing to do. So in fact there were many negative comments when I embarked on this. I think the turning point was finally last year when I did a big major competition. There were some news in the media about my results. So I think that was the turning point for me, at least, kind of getting that approval from my family for them to say that, hey, I'm so proud of you, I read about your results and congratulations. But these are still very new pieces. As a person who spends a lot of time in the islands and by the ocean, over the years I have seen some big changes to the ocean environment. There's always a lot of trash around. Sometimes I try to do some beach cleanup, and it's also during this time that I started to find tiny pieces of glass that actually look quite pretty, and I realized that these are actually sea glass. Basically it's trash, but over decades of time, so maybe after 30-40 years, the ocean smoothens it out until it transforms the broken piece of glass into sea glass. I started to pick up more and more pieces of this glass, and I started to have a collection of all different colors of glass. Finally, I realized that I could actually turn them into wearable jewelry. So I started to make little pieces like this because it's something that I could share with non-divers and people living here in Singapore, and share this story about the sea glass, spreading the message of how the ocean can transform trash into something beautiful, and the idea that this came from a piece of trash in the ocean. And so how can we then help to preserve our natural environment for ourselves and for the future generations. I'm Anqi, I'm a free diver, and this is why I do what I do.